Hey, it's Nadia Venice, and you're tapped in with Icon. And shit, let me start over. Let's start. Okay. Follow me on Instagram, Nadia.Venice, and check out my music on all streaming platforms.
Hey, what's poppin', y'all? It's your boy Icon Got You, aka the voice of the casual, aka Mr. Leather on Butt. And y'all already know, y'all know how I do. Y'all know I travel, I move dolo state to state. I'll be going borough to borough. I may go continent to continent next time, but for right now, I'm staying in the States because I don't have a passport. But that is what it is. We're going to talk about that later. You know already I had a touchdown in Georgia with it. I had to go down south. Yeah, and I'm in the A. Y'all know it's crazy. I'm on my big meech. Nah, yeah, we ain't going to talk about that. But I dropped down in the A and I had a touchdown with sis. Introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, it's Nadia Venice. How's everyone doing today?
I wrote the script for another one. You stayed on your mark again. Rehearsed your lines for another scene. I set the scene, reset the scene.
Oh man, yo. It's so crazy that we actually were able to make this happen.
I know, I'm excited.
So tell us a little bit about you. Like, you said your name is Nadia Venice and everything. What type of music do you do?
So I make a combination of R&B, pop, contemporary, alternative. A lot of the stuff that I make hasn't necessarily been put out yet, but as of right now, you'll hear a lot of R&B uh, energy. So yeah, and I'm a songwriter as well. So
Oh, okay. So one thing I wanted to ask you was, so I know I said earlier that you're from Atlanta, Georgia and everything, but were you born originally in Georgia and everything?
yes, so I was born in Atlanta. I've moved around a lot. I've lived in Boca Raton, Florida. I've lived in North Carolina, but I was raised in the metro area. But I moved around a lot in Atlanta. Didn't like really stay in one place.
Then so when you say moved around a lot, like were you like army? Like when you say like army brat moving around a lot, or just moved around a lot throughout the city?
Just moved around a lot in the metro area. I wasn't an army brat. Just life, family stuff had me moving around a lot. So yeah.
What age were you when like music really kind of stepped this way into the picture?
So my older cousin taught me how to write songs, and then she taught me how to sing as well. So I was probably like, I was young. I was maybe like 4, 5, 6. I don't know. She taught me when I was very young, and she kind of it was me and my other cousin that she was teaching because we were much younger, and she was like the teen that was like babysitting us and teaching us all these things. And she kind of planted that seed, and I just never stopped. And so I didn't start releasing music though until I was like 19 because I didn't really know how to do so. But I wrote music my whole life. For a long time, though, I really thought that I was going to be an actress because I was way more into the acting realm. And I did theater and, a little bit of on camera stuff, but music was still always in the background of that in the sense that I would write a lot of music and I would sing a lot. In addition to the fact that when I was young, at the time, like growing up in the 90s and 2000s, being a triple threat was like a thing. So you needed to know how to sing, you needed to know how to dance, you needed to know how to act. So I had this pressure of like, okay, well, I need to know how to do all these things, right? And it wasn't until I was a little older that I realized music is my deepest passion out of it all. And it's been the most consistent. So,
Did you go to college for music or just kept pursuing music as a passion?
so I am old. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely not in college. I graduated, but I didn't go to school for music. I went to school for PR and Spanish, and I changed my major a few times. I wanted to go to school for music, but realistically and financially, it just didn't go in that direction. And I continued to try to, I guess, nurture my skill set with music outside of what I was going to school for. Um, and a lot of that was just from like coming from a family where I guess they didn't really fully understand the depths of the music industry and how to get into it themselves. I mean, to some extent they did, but as far as my mother, it was very much like go to school, get your degree in something that you can work in, get a 9 to 5 in, and do music. And if it does its thing, then you can switch over. So it was a lot of like just doing the quote unquote right thing to protect myself. Um, but yeah, I didn't go to school for music. I would have liked to though, but really it just wasn't in the cards for me at the time.
So now that you're pursuing music like more like hard body and you're going to like, further extents in pursuing your musical career, what do you feel is the most difficult with, like pursuing music now?
Um, the most difficult thing, I mean, I don't know. I definitely think it's a little bit easier in the sense that you have a little more autonomy with, you know, building your own brand or your own personal brand, and the fact that you can distribute your music to all platforms without the help of a label. So there's kind of a dichotomy there because on one hand, you can really do it all yourself, but on the flip side of that, the industry is pretty saturated with a lot of people that just want to be famous and don't really have a passion for music, or like talent isn't as bolstered anymore. So when you have such an influx of that, in addition to the fact that society is changing in terms of what they consider good music, that can kind of get in the way. But it depends on how you look at it. Like I think there's an audience for everybody. There's an audience for people that make stuff, like make music that isn't like where it's not that serious. It's just like fuck around music versus music that has a little more depth, I guess you could say. So I do think that there's space for everybody, but at the same time, the things that go viral that are kind of stupid tend to kind of like, I don't know how you would say it. I guess kind of like get in the way of, the people that really put their blood, sweat, and tears into things.
So with everything that you're doing right now, who would you say have been your biggest influences in crafting the sound that you have cultivated today?
So I feel like I listen to a lot of different genres. And whenever I get asked this question, I get thrown off because I don't really have a specific person that I can think of. I get compared to SZA a lot and I like her stuff, but I don't really think about her when I'm writing. And I will say this too. I pay attention to different artists in terms of how they write because I really admire it. Like Kendrick Lamar, for example, and just how they compose a song, or Tame Impala and things of that sort. But and those are the times where I'll kind of like study how they are doing it, or you know what I mean. But as far as actual influences, I don't really feel like I have one. If I were to say that I had them, it's all kind of subconscious because I listen to so much music that inevitably it's going to come out a little bit how I write and in my own stuff, if that makes sense. But I don't necessarily I can't really attribute it all to specific people. Like I sing and listen to a lot of shit, you know?
Okay. So with where you see the rap, like, well, not the rap game, but the music as a whole right now, who would you say right now you'd be like, man, I'm about to push this motherfucker out and make room for me? You got to push one person out and make room for you.
I don't think like that. I don't want to push anyone out. Because once again, I think that there's space for everybody. But I think a lot of it is just comes down to you making your own lane. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, that's how I think. I don't know.
So do you, aside from music, cause, so actually, wait, actually, I have another music question I want to ask you. So
Hmm.
what new projects could we look to be hearing from you in the near future?
So I have a single that's coming soon. I've been teasing it for a while. So I'm kind of trying to do like the waterfall method. I don't want to say the name yet because I'm still teeter tottering between what I want to call it, but it's between two terms. And then I've got some visuals on the way, as well as a fuck ton of music. I'm always writing. I have songs backed up from years ago that I've written that I still plan to release. And yeah, more visuals, all that. So I'm really excited.
With you, how important is perfection to you with your music?
Perfection is a little too important to me. I feel like I get a little too caught up in that. to the point where I kind of have to tell myself, okay, output is more important. You know what I mean? And this year specifically, between this year and last year, I've told myself, I've tried to get more in the mindset that being active is more important than perfection, because I think perfection has stunted me a lot in the past. So yeah, it can get in the way, but I'm trying to not let that be at the forefront as much, because I think it holds me back more than it helps me.
So, what would you say with like how everything is? Cause I remember we were kind of talking about it earlier. Would you say that a 9 to 5? Would you say that a 9 to 5 benefits or hinders an artist?
I definitely think it can hinder you for sure. But then again, there's benefits as well. I think it depends on where you're at in your career. It can help from a financial standpoint, but the experiences that I've had recently, it can also help from a networking standpoint, because you just never know. Like, there's a person that I met recently at my job that is in the music industry, and I had no idea he was like right up under my nose the whole time. And so it just depends on your situation. If you're making enough money to be able to put back into your music, aka studio time, maybe producers and whatever, you want to put it back into, it can be helpful, but it can also take away from the amount of time that you can put in. So you really have to have that time management so that you're able to do both. It's no different than the people that have a 9 to 5 and then they have a side business that they're putting time into once they clock out. You know what I mean? It's the same with music, and then eventually it takes off on its own. So that's ultimately the goal for a lot of the 9 to 5ers out there that also want to do music.
What would you say? How important is your cousin to you, like so far right now in your journey? Like, do you guys still? Is she still an intricate piece right now with you?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely gives me advice, and I value her advice. As of right now, I think her and I's relationship is, more family based and just, you know, connecting on that level. But I think she has definitely been my biggest supporter in my family, and I love her to death, and I'm so grateful for her in so many ways. But yeah, she's just as passionate about it for me. She's very much like, listen, this is what you got to do, like, because she's actually had a little bit of experience in the industry herself, kind of in a different angle, but yeah, I mean, occasionally she gives me tips and suggestions and what have you. So I I definitely appreciate her.
So, aside from music, what other talents do you like pursue? Right now, we see Method Man in Power. Would you think you
Hmm.
would transition from being like a musician to an actress?
That's a good question. So one other really big passion of mine is modeling. I love modeling so much. Modeling is very similar to ballet in the sense that you are having to make really difficult movement look pretty or look aesthetically pleasing for, whatever intentions you have for the shot. And so I really love modeling. I also really like doing voiceovers. So I think that those would be the two things that I would continue to nurture. As far as acting, I used to act, kind of lost my interest in it, and then I gained it back for a little. So I might dip my toes back into that. But right now, I'm as far as anything on top of music, I'm really into like commercial acting and commercial modeling. Um, so yeah, those would be my main things. If I were to get into like episodic stuff and film, I'm not against it. If it were the right fit, I'd be open to it.
At
Hmm.
what age did you start modeling?
So modeling is fairly recent for me. I always wanted to, um, and I remember when I was a teen. This is such a silly story. I had asked a couple of my friends when I was in school. I was like, "Guys, think I want to model. Like, do you think I should do it?" And they literally were like, "You should focus on music. Like, music is your thing." And I think hearing that made me realize, okay, like, let me just stick to music for now. But as I started to learn more about the industry, the more I realized there's a pocket for everybody when it comes to modeling, realistically, especially when it comes to e-com and commercial. Not to mention, let's just be honest, the people that I went to school with in high school, there was, let's just say this was a little bit of an abnormal experience. I went to a boarding school first off in Florida. And so it was a lot of people from like around the world, and they would be like 5'11", beautiful, tall, skinny girls. You know what I mean? So in terms of the beauty standard there, it was very much like, if you don't look like that, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you you could be a model. But realistically, you can be a model from a commercial standpoint. So there's space for like petite people and whatever. I forgot what the original question was. Sorry. What was the question? I forgot.
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. It's just the way you went, because you were going in, you was eating it up. You was actually fine. You were answering the question. The
And then I
question was,
lost.
yeah, the question was just more, when did you start?
When
And
did I
when
start modeling?
yeah,
That's crazy.
I actually
That's
literally,
so.
when did you start?
It'd be like that. No, but yeah, modeling is fairly recent for me. I don't know. See, this is the thing, man. I'd be going off on these tangents. Sorry.
You're good. Shit, I know I do too. Oh, nah, like, so. So let me ask you this, because you were mentioning modeling, right? So say if you
Hmm.
had a chance, like, I don't know if you know who Tyra Banks is.
What do you mean you don't know if I know? Of
I
course I
don't know
know.
if you know who Tyra Banks is. You know, I don't
I
know.
grew up watching ANTM. That's my shit. She's an interesting character.
Who was? I'm gonna ask you a serious question. Who was
Sure.
the? Who was the? Who was the girl with the short hair, short, tiny girl, little petite, who won the first America's Next Top Model?
Honestly, I don't remember, and I feel bad that I don't remember.
And she was black.
Damn, really? I don't know. Was it Eva? It wasn't
Yeah, it
her.
was.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it
That was
was.
the first one? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, man.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, man. They always kept picking the other people after beforehand. I used to think,
Mm.
I used to think, I used to think some things about Top America's Next Top Model. I remember my sisters used to watch that show all the time. I was
Me
like, that.
too.
I was like, the hell is this? They
You
were
know what's
like,
crazy? This is low key cringe, but like when I'm modeling, whatever I learned on that show is low key in the back of my head. So like certain poses, like certain tips that she would give about modeling and like how to like hold parts of your body and like whatever. Like I have Tyra in the back of my mind at all times. As corny as that
damn,
sounds, but
damn, Tyra was out here really influencing, is
it
what
really
you saying.
was. Like the smize, it's still there. It's still in my mind at all times.
Y'all really looked up to Tyra. Oh, shit.
But you know what's crazy? It's like I'm like nervous to even say that though because of the controversies with America's Next Top Model nowadays.
What's going
And
on,
just like all
America? What's going on with the controversy? What you talking about?
so like I'm seeing more content lately on social media where they're like basically talking about um like old episodes that like just it would get her canceled nowadays if the show was still out. So like blackface and her being abusive kind of to the models. Not abusive, but just like messed up industry
Verb,
stuff, you know.
verbally abusive. You could say it. Verbally abusive.
Verbally abusive or just like exploitative, I guess is a better word. So
Like
like models would
when she said to Takara about that plus size shit. You talking about?
I don't even remember that.
Oh,
I
man.
forgot about that. But more so like the models didn't really eat. They weren't allowed to get paid while they were on the show type shit.
Wait,
Like
what? They didn't get paid?
yeah, like at least from what I've heard from one of the earlier America's Next Top Model contestants. But like there was just like a lot of messed up stuff that happened.
There's no way Tyra's that messed up.
Yeah, man.
I,
But that's
no.
why like people don't really like her now because all this stuff has come out about her being like not such a good person behind the scenes. I feel like that tends to happen though in these scenarios just because like when you are at a point of power, sadly, I don't know, things can just go awry, especially with the modeling industry being what it is already. And she was very much a part of that for so many years. A lot of the mentality with things is very much like, well, that's just the industry. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So years later, when we've got all these, the way that society thinks now, and you know, cancel culture and all that, she happens to be the figurehead of it and gets blamed for a lot of things, but it just is what it is. There's a lot of people getting canceled for everything. Some rightfully so, but
So how do you feel about the Diddy Cassie situation?
I feel very obviously about the fact that like he should be removed from the industry completely. I've been seeing more stuff come out about it. Um in terms of like actual personal accounts of some of the things that he's done. The sad truth is that, and I this is a little off topic, but still kind of on topic. There's this book that I read about um, how it's scientifically proven how the more money and power that a man gets, the lower oxytocin levels they produce, and it can result in a lot of messed up behavior, aka like cheating and like using just like very
Narcissism.
not even necessarily narcissism, but just lack of empathy more so. I guess that's a piece of narcissism, but almost it's giving sociopathy, like, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. And so I don't know. I see this happen all the time with a lot of the people at the top in the industry, and it's scary. But same thing with Harvey Weinstein and all these people. It's disgusting, obviously. Thankfully, though, nowadays I feel like we're at a place where us as women we can kind of build our own brands and do our own thing. We don't really need to deal with that. But that all just depends on what you want out of this industry, how famous you want to be. You know what I mean?
And but do you feel that hip? Do you feel like music is the cause of a lot of like where black people are like hindrance? Do you feel like music is a gift or a hindrance to like Black America?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. From my standpoint, I think it's a beautiful thing that can bring people together, but it depends on what, I guess it depends on what genre and like how it's exhibited that can cause a hindrance. Because if the music is kind of breeding a certain mentality, yeah, that could be hurting us as a community. You know what I'm saying? But it can also bring us together if it were to, if certain things were like pushed in a different direction. I feel it can go both ways.
So I know you look at your contemporaries that are in the game right now, and you said earlier you wouldn't want to push anybody out. So when you look
Mhm.
at all these women artists, and I mean from rappers to even
Mhm.
male artists, like from male to female artists, who would be your first person for a feature if you can get one right now?
Ari Lennox, 1000%. I love
Wow.
that bitch so much. That's my dream. Between her and Smino, those are my dream collabs.
Wow. No hesitation. Jesus.
Yeah, man. I tweeted that like years ago. Like I'm so serious. I love
Spoken
her.
into existence.
Yeah, hopefully.
And if 50 Cent hit you up to be on Power, you would do it?
I don't know. You know what's crazy? Sorry, I'm so ADHD. But like years ago, there's a site where you can like join to be an extra in TV shows. And I feel like Power was on this site. I think it was like backstage. Or no, it was Bill Marinella's casting, I think. And I attempted to send my stuff over and I like got through the first round of them being like, "Oh, there's an interest," but I didn't end up getting it. If I were to get asked that now though, I don't know. It depends on where I'm at. I don't even know because I'm so focused on music. But I really do like that show. It's a really good show.
So if you had a chance to sign right now, would you take it? Or would
It
you stay
depends on the deal.
independent and grind?
It depends on the deal. Realistically, at least from what I've learned thus far, uh, so oftentimes people are kind of backed into like a 360 deal. And granted, I am not omniscient on this topic, but from what I do know, it's usually just like a really big loan, and the ability to get out of said loan is can be difficult. But if it was some sort of songwriting deal or sync licensing deal or something along those lines, once again, it would depend on the deal. But yes, it would just have to be the right deal. It would have to be something that I don't think would hurt me in the long run or like lower risk, if you will.
High, low risk, high reward.
Yeah. I mean, a decent reward, I'd say. And I mean, because for me, in terms of the reward, it would just need to be something that is, I guess, conducive to what my goals are financially and, industry wise. Um, but I don't necessarily need to have like millions of dollars thrown at me. You know what I mean? I could be happy with like a 500K deal or like, you know what I mean? It just depends on how everything would be set up in terms of the return on that. I was 19, I'm pretty sure, when I released my first song. And realistically, it's just because before that, I didn't know how. Like, I didn't know where to even start when it came to releasing music and production and all that. Little backstory though, I worked in Buckhead at the time. I was like taking a year off of college and I met this guy who did music and he was like, there's these things called like type beats. So that was like my first time hearing about what a type beat even was. And he was like, I wrote a song to this beat, like you should look into this. And that was kind of the start of me being able to like put songs on a production, if that makes sense. And then, as far as figuring out where to record, I just started doing research. I met a lady who was a songwriter who needed a singer, and she kind of introduced me to that whole world of just recording in studio. So that was like the start of that.
Okay. So your first song, that song was called Rethink.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you like mentally when you first made that song?
Yeah. So at the time, this is kind of a dark backstory. What I will say is I was dating somebody who had we were talking about his previous relationship and things got a little toxic, so to speak. And so, weirdly enough, when I wrote that song, it was actually about his previous thing. And I know that that sounds weird, but I mean, if you knew the full context, it wasn't that weird. Um, and so it wasn't even about my own personal experience. It was about his stuff because I get very inspired by people's stories, and I tend to write songs about other people's stuff a lot of the time, surprisingly. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of how that started. And if you think about if you listen to the lyrics, you can kind of put two and two together in terms of what went down. So yeah.
Oh, so that's not even your story. I mean,
No.
that's crazy. That's
Isn't that
actually,
crazy?
yo, that's crazy. It,
Yeah. I'm like, and I know that this phrase is kind of like whatever, but I'm a bit of an empath in the sense that if someone's telling me what they're going through or their story, it's like I get, not only do I like feel the emotions of it, even of the person that I might not even know. Like you could be talking about someone else and I'll like somehow weirdly empathize because I feel like emotions are fairly universal. And then it'll inspire me enough to write a song out of it. So I get a lot of creative inspiration from just like conversing and connecting to people, even if I like shouldn't, so to speak, if that makes sense. Like I shouldn't care about his ex. But I was inspired because she's a human just like I am. You know what I mean? Like I don't think of it as petty. I think of it as connection and inadvertently and inspiration.
okay, that's actually dope. Uh, so
Mhm.
that leads me kind of into my next question. So you have a song called "Let Me Get Back," and in "Let Me Get
Yeah.
Back," you're falling in the cover art. You're falling out the sky. Do you want to explain
Mhm.
that a bit?
I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it 100 on that. That cover art is from Canva. Like that's not me. I wish it was like organically, created, but at the time I was just updating my cover art, and I was like, I need something that looks a little more interesting. And I liked that concept because the cover art still does depict what the song is kind of about. Like essentially, just kind of like losing yourself in a relationship with somebody that might not be the healthiest for you, and the song is essentially about wanting revenge on that person, but your conscience kind of won't let you, simply because you just don't really operate in that way, and you get kind of caught up in the concept of karma, and you're like, screw it, I'll let God handle that. But um, I think a lot of people can relate to the fact that you might have a kind of like a built up vengeance, but you can't pull the trigger because it's just too much drama. So, yeah.
No, I understand that. Whew, you brought back a memory.
Really? Yeah.
so, so you also have a song, and the song is called "Liquor Store."
Mhm.
You gotta tell me what it was like. what type of mind frame do you have to be in to make liquor store? Like what were you going through that made this kind of record?
So that song was written when I lived back in North Carolina. And at the time, I was kind of going through a lot in regards to music and a lot in general. My mental health was just like, kind of on the lower end. And at the time, I was basically kind of made to feel like I shouldn't do music anymore, but I just couldn't. I couldn't stop. You know what I mean? I had to let it out, and so that was the first song that I had written when that was going on. Um, and I just pulled up the beat and I just got inspired. And a lot of times when I'm writing songs, I'll find a beat that I resonate with, and the lyrics kind of just pour out. So it's kind of like a introspective experience because you don't really. It's very extemporaneous. Extemporaneous, like it just pours out of me, and that just poured out. Because I wouldn't say that I was necessarily like drinking a lot at that time, but there have been times when I have, and I'm going through something, and you know what I mean? In terms of that being a vice, though, I wouldn't say that's like a main vice. But once again, it's a universal thing that people can relate to. And I think at that time, too, it was during COVID. And that was like a widespread thing where people were just like drinking a lot and whatever. And so that's kind of what inspired that. But I was definitely depressed at that time. I can say that much. So,
So so that song was so you really like what makes you put so much emotion and thought into your records versus I mean, as you can see in this day and age, most artists, we can say that the artistry, well, the art has, we could say it's been pretty much crayons and
hmm
paper, crayons and construction paper, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Catching my drift. Like, so what makes you put so much thought and like conviction into these records? Because you could easily just make a TikTok anthem and
That's true. Uh, the reason why I was laughing, by the way, is because I had a friend of mine that said the exact same thing. Where they're like, "You have macaroni art, and then you have this." It was just funny. I don't know. I think that there's a space for all of it. Like, there's a space for songs that are just catchy and fun, but music has always been a catharsis for me. So I think I kind of just naturally uh, pour my emotions into it. It's an outlet. Um, but there's times when I'll write stuff that's just catchy and cute. You know what I mean? Those songs haven't been released yet, though, is the thing. I've got like a whole vault. But yeah, I think that it makes the music more rich. I think it makes it more relatable. I think my reason for doing music is not only just for it to be an outlet, but I love the idea of having an impact. So I think that all those things combined together is why my songs sound the way that they do.
Okay. Hmm. I'm liking these answers. This is nice. Okay, you
Good.
came you came prepared today. You came ready for war. Oh, I like this. Okay. So I want to say you kind of got on your Beyonce a little bit in 2023. So
Mhm.
what made you like what happened? How did Lemonade come to be? Cause I call it the Beyonce effect. So how you
Oh
gotta
yeah.
explain to me this record?
Okay, I'm trying to honestly think back to when I wrote that song. Okay. So at the time, I had a kind of a, how do you say? I had like a little phase where I was like writing a lot of music like every day till like really late hours. You would call it mania, sure, whatever. And there was this theme. I kept writing songs to a theme. So like for example, there's Lemonade. I got a song that's completely written in like every song has like a motif. Like Action was written at that time, Lemonade was written at that time, and I have so many others that were based off of a theme. And I think I had like literally I think it was something as tiny as somebody saying like when life gives you lemons or some shit like that. It's like and I got inspired and was like, I'm gonna make a song about this. Like it really be like that. And it's more fun too because when you have like tiny inspiration like that to write a song out of, it makes the whole creative process fun. Like just to have that one theme and be like, okay, I'm gonna build a song around this and I'm gonna give it a deeper meaning or like a double entendre in that sense. But yeah, that's kind of what happened.
That's actually dope. Did you grow up on Disney Channel?
Yeah, Disney and Nickelodeon.
Oh man, Disney and Nickelodeon. Which one was better? You
I
gotta
don't know. It's hard
cut
to
cut.
say. I liked both equally. Disney had better shows growing up, but there were some on Nickelodeon, like Victorious and like Zoe 101. Zoe 101 is why I wanted to go to boarding school, and then I ended up going. So that was like, but honestly,
I
my favorite
forgot
shows
about
when I was
Zoe
younger
101.
were not kid shows. It was like Gilmore Girls, like really like mature, weird. I don't know.
You watched Dawson's Creek, didn't you?
A tiny bit. I was a Gilmore Girls fan like through and through though. Like it was like weird. Like, I wanted to have a birthday party, my 10th birthday party, not kidding. I wanted it to be Gilmore Girls themed. Like what I don't even know.
So,
I was really inspired by Rory Gilmore, I'll say that.
oh, okay. Wait. So did you watch? So you since you say you watch Disney, I gotta ask you, what's your favorite Disney song?
Oh, that's a tough one. Disney song? I loved Hannah Montana. Um that's I don't even know. See You Again, maybe? Or like East Northumberland High. That was like one of those like you gotta really be a Hannah Montana fan to know that song. I also really liked Cheetah Girls a lot. Like a lot, a lot. I still have some of their shit. They just released Cinderella, which I'm kind of like, damn, why did it take 10 years, or 20 years? But I don't know that I have one favorite. It's between those
Wait, they
three.
just re-released that song?
Isn't that crazy? Like literally for the longest time, they had was the live version. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like just put the soundtrack out. I don't know.
Wait, they never. That was always the live version that we listened to.
No, 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 no. Like the live version that we listened to was like legit. But in terms of what was available on streaming platforms, I'm assuming it was a licensing issue. But like you couldn't listen to like what we used to listen to. It was like just the concert version.
Oh yeah,
It was
because I think it had something to do with because Raven had left the group, right?
maybe I don't even know the lore behind that.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, she was a part of the Cheetah Girls, and I think
Hmm.
she left the group, and I think that that's where the issue happened because they recorded with her on like the first original, and then I don't
Oh
think she was clearing it. Raven Petty is.
wow, that's crazy if that's the case. Wow.
Yeah, nah, Raven Petty, I think, but I think it was a mixture of that and some other things. It's like little
Hmm.
underlining issues, but I think that there was something about clearance. If I remember the interview correctly, they were talking about they couldn't do get certain things cleared.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I remember they were talking. What talk show was it? Because it was the three of them. Because they had toured too after that
Mhm.
movie. They had
I
toured.
went to one of them. That was my first concert that I ever went to. Was Hannah Montana and Cheetah Girls.
Oh my god!
I know, right? Isn't that iconic? Looking back, I'm like, yo, I'm so happy that I got to be able to do that at that age. Seriously.
Yeah. Oh, so would you say Miley? Did you like Hannah Montana better, or did you like Miley Cyrus after she transitioned from Hannah Montana back to Miley Cyrus?
You know what's so funny about that? I loved Miley just because I love Miley, but like when she first transitioned, I was like, this is a dumpster fire. Like I don't know what's going on. And then like, but I still liked Miley, like her personality. Um,
She had Fly on the Wall. What you
yeah,
mean?
that's true. Yeah, I liked it. It's just like the Can't Be Tamed era just felt very like it was a little over the top, but I still loved her. Like I love Seven Things. Um, I think she was just young and finding herself though. Like I'm not judging it. Like it'd be like that. I feel like a lot of Disney stars kind of go through that phase just because you're made to feel so infantilized that it's like, oh, I want to break out of this, and then it comes across a little much, kind of like what JoJo Siwa is doing right now. Like it gives like a corny vibe almost, but then they like settle into it and find themselves. So it's just how it is.
But so with Kiki Palmer, so you know Kiki Palmer, right? Who Kiki Palmer is?
Yeah. Yes.
So Kiki Palmer has been, she was in the headlines before for the thing with Usher. Do you
Yeah.
do you think not about it's not the question is not so much about Kiki Palmer. Do you feel like now in this day and age it's so hard to have a relationship when the
Mhm.
internet being a public figure? Like for
Yes.
like yeah, like when you make like when you're a public figure. Yeah. My bad. I'm sorry about
No, you're
that.
fine. Yeah, I that's why I'm really private about that kind of stuff and don't post about it, because I feel like once you do start to do that kind of stuff, you're opening yourself up to a lot of vulnerability, and it's almost like it isn't yours anymore. Or you and your partners, it's you and the rest of the world, which I don't like. But I mean, to each their own. I just personally, I'm just really private about it, and I prefer it that way.
So when you see Kiki though, like and everything, she's accomplished a lot. Do you ever look up to like aspire to be like someone like Kiki?
I mean, yeah, there's so many people in the industry that are succeeding, and it definitely just generally is inspiring to work in entertainment. And also, it's inspiring from a standpoint of figuring out where I would want to rank in that. Because I think when you're young and you're looking up to people like Hannah Montana and whatever, you have a more rudimentary understanding of what fame entails. And you're like, I just want to be super famous like Miley Cyrus. And then you get older and you start to realize what comes with that. And honestly, I had seen this one interview where Adrienne Bailon was on The Real, and she was like, I love being a D-list celebrity. And I was like, I fucking get you. Because she was like, I can go to the grocery store without getting mobbed. I can live my life without an excessive amount of attention. And I feel her so hard on that. So, yeah, I think generally speaking, a lot of people inspire me to want to just work in entertainment and succeed with it, but also inspire me to just be careful with how I navigate that, you know?
No, I understand that completely. What I will say to you is, what is one thing that you have learned so far about networking in this industry?
Mhm. So I definitely think it's important. I think I've learned a little bit more about the ways to do it more optimally. And honestly, it's still a bit of a learning curve for me because I've been somewhat reclusive and I get very picky about the kinds of spaces that I want to be in. Um, I've learned, I went to a networking event like maybe like 6 months ago, and that was the first time that I felt like I was in a very stereotypical Atlanta environment. And what I mean by that is people kind of look at Atlanta like a Hollywood in a way for Black people. And it felt Hollywood in the sense that the connections felt very vapid and like, oh, I'm a celebrity podcaster, like introducing yourself in that way. I think it's important to be a little more, how do you say,
Humble.
subtle. Yeah, humble, subtle, and not as like, I have this many followers. Like, hi, nice to meet you. I have a million. Like, it's corny. I think that there's more respect that's had for you when you present yourself in a less ostentatious way, I guess you could say. It's really hard to put into words, but I feel like you know what I mean. Um, and I also think it's important to like, be fairly consistent with it, be a little bit more open minded, be careful with what you reveal about yourself, because sometimes that can come with opportunistic, clout chasey energy. Um, and just trying to not burn any bridges the best way that you can. Um, and if you do want to reject certain things, or you don't resonate with it, try to do so kindly or diplomatically. And you have to set boundaries with things as well. I think as a woman networking in the music industry, you really got to keep your head on the swivel, because there's a lot of gross men out there, straight up. Like, so you have to learn how to navigate around that too. That's like a whole thing for networking. Just being a woman in music, that's a whole thing to like figure out. So yeah, you just got to be careful.
Do you feel like people try to take advantage of you because you're a woman?
Thankfully, I've been pretty good about dodging that kind of stuff. Just because of how I move. But I also, I don't know, I make it pretty known from the beginning. Like I have the power essentially. That sounds bad, but it's like you have to kind of come across in a certain way that wouldn't make someone try, and I do. Um, so no, I don't really feel like I've been taken advantage of from a music standpoint. Um, but it's also because I try to be very careful. But at the same time, I think that that's kind of stunted me in certain ways. You just got to be careful. You just have to kind of to gauge this situation, read the room, do your research, try to connect with people that know someone before. You know what I mean? That referrals are a little bit better, but we're all just trying to figure this shit out one day at a time. So,
So one thing I wanted to ask you is, With singing before, you started off in the church and everything, right?
Yeah, I did actually.
Okay. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, what was your first experiences with the church and everything that got you involved with singing?
Yeah. So church isn't really what got me into singing, but I was, going to church since I was very young. Um and I was raised in the church. There was times I went to like Hopewell Christian Baptist school. I'm like forgetting the name, Jesus Christ, when I was really young. And I had a little bit of experience with like choir and stuff, which was really fun. And then I went to New Birth, and the praise and worship there is just, it was just amazing. It was very like stimulating to me. But what really got me into music was my cousin, though. I wouldn't say church inspired me to do music, but there was one time every year we would have an Easter play at New Birth, and we would hold it at the Georgia Dome. And there was one time where I auditioned for that, and that was the first time that I like sang on stage solo and sang a gospel song, and it like made my mom cry. So that was a moment that really stuck out for me because I had never done it that way. You know what I mean? Like from a gospel standpoint, but it was really liberating. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think just being around that kind of music was inspiring. I still listen to gospel music till this day. Um, but yeah, I think that kind of also inspired like the soulful sound that I have because that's what I grew up around.
That was. Nah, that's pretty much it. I mean, do you have anything else that you want to say to the people?
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm so sorry. I literally trip on my words all the time, but take some time to listen to my singles on Apple, Spotify, all the streaming platforms. So far, I've got out maybe like 6 or 7 singles. I have an EP out called Divergent, or it's actually called Liquid Mind. Divergent is the first single.
What?
And I have a song that I dropped recently called All Love. And yeah, I think you guys will really like it. Follow me on TikTok as well at nadia.venice.music.
Hold on. Hold up. Hold up.
What?
Why when we were talking about music, you didn't say none of that earlier?
You know what's so embarrassing is that like I be forgetting shit, bro. Like you literally put me on your story and you posted my EP, and I was like, oh shit, like I should probably talk about that, and I just like didn't. I honestly haven't promoted it that much on purpose because it wasn't really like, let's just say my sound quality has improved since then, so I just don't really talk about it as much. But I mean, they'll see it pop up if they look it up.
Yo, you are hilarious. I'm like, wait.
Get
Nah, because I'm listening to you say what you're saying. I'm like, hold the fuck up.
it?
Oh, Con, you the best.